Hi everyone, today I would like to tell you about one of American writers whose creative work was a real discovery to me. As you may remember, in one of the previous videos, I told that people are inclined to make discoveries and make conclusions. These discoveries may concern different things. And so reading, getting acquainted with the creative work of different authors in particular. So for me, such a discovery was getting to know John Grisham and the peculiarities of his creative work. So today I'm going to speak about some of his most famous legal thrillers, legal novels. But before this, we will touch upon some of particular details from his biography. So John Grisham was born on the 8th of February 1955. So he was born in South Barra City, Arkansas State. John Grisham was raised in a really big family that consisted of 5 children, so brothers and sisters. Due to the fact that John Grisham's father worked as a builder, the family moved quite often. So we can say that John Grisham had to experience a lot of changes. And as well as their life in movies was quite changeable and unexpected. The same thing can be said about the features of his studying and education, and also about his working experience. So his parents, mother in particular, did their best to help their child, so John get the best education. And firstly, John Grisham was involved in studying economics, and he got the degree of economical sciences. His first job degree that he got was working as an accountant. The really interesting fact is that before actually becoming a lawyer, and it was maybe his first big job, so something that he spent really a lot of time on, John Grisham tried himself in a variety of various odd jobs, and so they contributed to making him as he is now. So being a teenager, he worked as a gardener, so he took care of the flowers, watered them, and got the wage for each hour that he worked. Then he was involved in working in the building sphere, so something like his father did. But all the time he felt that he couldn't realize his potential. So this job was really far from being satisfying for him. And of course, there is an interesting, remarkable, and in a way shameful for John Grisham's biography fact, as he admits it actually, that for some time he had to work as a salesman trying to sell the male underwear. So I'm really sorry to John Grisham for mentioning this fact, but actually it's open and publicly accessed. For John Grisham, this fact was a really humiliating one. So we can say that his serious working career started with him being as a lawyer, and he specialized in different fields of law jurisdiction, but first of all it concerned the civic deals and criminal cases. So John Grisham was primarily occupied with the lawyer career, defending his clients for about 10 years before he took up his career as a writer. And what really motivated him to become a writer was the story, actually the real case about a little girl who was harshly and cruelly raped. This case, this trial, caused the real tumult in America and all over the world. And since that moment, John Grisham understood that it was a kind of vocation for him to start doing something different. And it was to describe and reflect the experience of working as a lawyer, all the difficulties that lawyers usually face in their work in the books. Actually, that story about the girl being raped was reflected in John Grisham's first novel. The title of this novel is Time to Kill. Actually, the first novel was moderately successful, to say even less, and maybe this circumstance would have prevented John Grisham from pursuing the career of a writer if it hadn't been for his second novel, The Firm, which helped John Grisham to become famous overnight. So this novel got its universal acclaim, and even several companies fought for the right to make this novel screened, to make the screen adaptation. It's needless to say that from that point, John Grisham's career rose to the real heights. So from that moment, he wrote some more famous novels, which are The Pelican Brief, The Client, The Rainmaker, The Testament, The Runaway Jury. Most of these novels were screened in Hollywood. So today I'm going to embark on telling about some of the books that I read this year, the books that helped me feel the legal atmosphere, the work of lawyers, and getting to know John Grisham was really useful and rewarding. So I would like to start with the books as actually I read them, not in the chronological order exactly as John Grisham read them. For my experience, for me, the story of being closer to John Grisham's creative work was due to reading the novel The Testament, which was presented to me by the workers of Sabit Mukhanov's library. So in his novel, The Testament, you won't find any murder cases actually. The story is about the Phelan's family. In this family, the really old person, Troy Phelan, got seriously ill. He knew that he would die quite soon. The man was really rich, and he faced the problem. So who exactly he should leave his enormous fortune? He had a lot of heirs, so from his family, feelings, so to speak, but he had another person who he thought quite often about. This person's name is Rachel Lane, who is occupied in working as a missionary in Brazil jungles. And now it's up to a famous lawyer, Nate O'Reilly, to solve this dilemma. It's up to him to find this lost heir, Rachel Lane, and persuade her to get into the rights of heritage and get this huge fortune. It's needless to say that the other descendants, relatives of Troy Phelan, are not going to put up with this situation. They, like a pack of wolves or the flock of vultures, are going to chase both the lawyer, Nate O'Reilly, and Rachel Lane and stop them from getting this fortune. So this novel presents a really high-powered social drama, and it's really interesting to follow the movements and decisions of the characters and see who will be actually benefited in the end of this novel. So the next novel that I would like to share my impressions about is The Pelican Brief. So this is a really dynamic and tense novel, and it revolves around the young legal student whose name is Darby Shaw. In this novel, we follow the story of the case in which the two Supreme Court justices were cruelly murdered, so they were assassinated. The prosecutors, the policemen, are doing their best to find the criminal, but it was destined that Darby Shaw managed to get the track of the real criminals. She made a brilliant guess, but this guess can certainly cost her life. And in this world, in this situation where she has actually no one to trust, only a brilliant and ambitious reporter who will be ready to help her, it's up to them, both of them, to reveal the truth to America and show the only solution to this gruesome murder of the two Supreme Court justices. This novel is full of twists, is full of chases, and it really shows how one person, one legal student who is really proud of their work, of their vocation, is really ready to struggle, to go forward in spite of any difficulties, in spite of any threats. So this book certainly deserves attention. The next book, which is quite similar in the contents, in the surroundings to The Pelican Brief, is The Client. Here, the main character is the 12-year-old boy whose name is Mark Sway. He and his younger brother were walking in the forest when they stumbled upon the lawyer who committed the suicide. As we will find out later, this lawyer was far from being decent. Actually, he was a sleazy lawyer. But before committing the suicide, the lawyer shares the vital piece of information about the abhorrent murder that took place in America. Actually, about the location of the body, which is being sought by various policemen and prosecutors. And now this little boy has to carry the unbearable for him burden. He has to hold this secret knowledge that can destroy him in any moment. And who is going to help him? It's up to another promising young lawyer whose name is Reggie Love. It is Reggie Love who is destined to stand between him and the policeman, to stand between him and the criminals, and do her best not only to find the solution to this crime and make everything actually that she can to expose the real criminals, but first of all to save her and her little clients' lives. So this is highly dynamic, absorbing and gripping novel in which a lot of people's lives are involved and matter. So another novel that is worth our attention. And the last novel that I would like to tell you about is The Rainmaker. Here is the story about one more young student who is going to be specialized in law quite soon, and he will become a qualified specialist, and he is up to facing a really big case in his life against the huge insurance company and the corporate defense team that is going to present their rights. This novel, in contrast to others, contains a lot of light, so to speak, humorous moments that make the process of reading of this book quite easy and entertaining. And when I was reading this book, I couldn't help but smile or laugh out in particular situations. So this novel presents a really harsh and fierce battle between the biggest corporate defense team containing a lot of qualified lawyers, sharks, so to speak, in the law world, and this young, just beginning to practice student who, nevertheless, is going to stand up his and his client's ground in this really exciting trial. So it's really interesting to follow the development of the main character, this young lawyer whose name is Rudy Baylor, and see how he develops in his working path and how he develops as a personality in different contexts of his life. Итак, сегодня мы с вами говорили о Джоне Гришэме, об одном из современных известных американских писателей, который прославился своим творчеством в написании так называемых юридических триллеров. Для меня творчество Джона Гришэма было настоящим открытием в этом году. Джон Гришэм очень интересно пишет о мире юриспруденции, о работе юристов. Он очень точно и достоверно передает все нюансы данной профессии, тех трудностей и вызовов, с которыми сталкиваются юристы, адвокаты, прокуроры. Он очень достоверно и ярко описывает работу судей, а также вот эти все перипетии, которые происходят в залах суда, заставляет читателей сопереживать судьбам персонажей, главных героев, и действительно погружает вот в этот мир юридической деятельности, юриспруденции, заставляя нас, помогая нам глубже узнать все тонкости этой профессии. И не говоря уже о том, что по многим произведениям сняты фильмы, которые помогают нам увидеть и прочувствовать всю вот эту атмосферу, которую замечательно передает Джон Гришэм в своих произведениях. Я очень надеюсь, что вам было интересно послушать определенные факты о Джоне Гришэме как о человеке, интересные факты о его биографии, которая достаточно интересна и неожиданна, как и его романы, его содержание. Было интересно послушать или узнать определенные факты, которые вы, возможно, уже знали или вы уже, возможно, знаете из произведений, которые читали ранее. Очень хотелось бы узнать в комментариях, какие вы, возможно, уже читали его романы или смотрели фильмы, и какие, возможно, романы, которые не прозвучали в видео, вы читали и могли бы поделиться в своих комментариях. А на этом у нас все. Спасибо вам за внимание. Надеюсь, что вам было очень интересно.